Hey trainers, Alakaham here with some more Pokemon video magic. It is 3:02, so that means in my time zone we are 2 minutes into the start of the newest Cup rotation here in Go Battle League. There is Ultra League and there is Kanto Cup, and incidentally, Ultra League is my favorite of the standard leagues, and the Kanto Cup is my favorite Great League Cup. So this is a really great week for me, and I thought that I would play through some of the Kanto Cup teams I had created here. And I don't know if all of these are going to work, but I do think that they will be fun. So I'm just going to go ahead and start at the earliest team here. And this one is built on the PvPoke recommendations for the strongest safe swap and closers, and then I added Dugong because I thought that it would be helpful against some of the things that beat those back two Pokemon. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. Okay, so we have lost the lead against this Primeape. I'm going to switch right into the Beedrill, and the idea here is that, okay, if somebody were to bring out a Hypno, that I would have some play against it with Fellstinger. My opponent has brought in an Alolan Sandslash, and as a Steel type, this is going to be resisting quite a few of the moves. I'm going to go ahead and shield this because I think I can get to at least one more drill run. Okay, maybe not. So I don't want to go down 2 shields, but I'm hoping this Ice Punch is not quite enough to KO. So I will either get shield advantage or I will win switch advantage here. Okay, and my opponent decided to double shield there, which is fine. So now I'm in kind of a dilemma because neither of my other Pokemon do especially well against the Sandslash, but I'm going to come in with Dugong because I know that Dugong isn't going to have a lot of play against that Primeape in the front. So I'm just going to have to pray that there is not a Hypno hiding in the back here. Because this Sandslash is not going to be able to do a lot of damage on its own, I'm going to go ahead and let another Bulldoze through here so that I can build up a little bit of extra energy. And now I'm going to throw the Water Pulse. This should do some decent neutral damage. And that's great. It lets me get through another Icy Shard. And, oh, my opponent brings in a Shadow Gyarados and a Bite Gyarados at that. They were probably hoping to catch a Hypno there. I'm going to go ahead and throw that Icy Wind. That's going to do a lot of damage, and they're going to try and bite down, which is fine. They're probably going to get to a move before I can farm down. Yeah. That's okay. I can go ahead and shield here. And the only thing that I really have to worry about from that Primeape is an Ice Punch, and that would be non-stab. So I don't think that it's going to be a one-hit KO. This is going to be very close, though. Okay, so we can get to the Poison Fang, and maybe I should have saved that for the Gyarados. I'm not sure if we could have farmed down or not, but either way, one Poison Jab will be enough to take out the Gyarados, and that's going to snag the first win of the season for the Kanto Cup. Off to a good start. Now we're going to move on to my signature team. This is a team that I have been using every season since I have started playing Go Battle League. I have other videos on this team, and oh, this isn't actually right. I don't want Shadow Machamp, I want Payback Machamp. So the basic idea here is that my Hypno has decent play. This is a Shadow Hypno. has decent play against most of the meta, and anything that it struggles with is going to have serious problems with either Machamp or Snorlax. Payback Machamp is preferable here because you can sometimes take Psychic types off guard, and you can either catch shields or win switch. So now that I've talked up the team, I hope that it actually performs well here that I'm recording. Queuing up, finding an opponent. Looks like we found one. Great, great. Loving the Gengar costume. And we've got Shadow Hypno into Alolan Raticate. This is a very bad lead, worst case scenario, so I am safe swapping into the Snorlax, and my opponent's going to bring in a Golbat, which is an interesting choice there, and a Shadow Golbat at that. So they're probably going to be prepared with anti-fighters on the team here. This is going to be a Poison Fang. The initial Poison Fang won't do that much, but obviously the defense drop is going to be problematic for me. Yeah, and then they outpace to the next one, which is not great. This Snorlax, of course, would be a lot more threatening to an opponent if I also had Superpower on it. That would make it a lot better against the Alolan Raticate, but that's fine. So we do win switch, even though we lose shield advantage, and I have a Body Slam stored. And there's enough energy that I can maybe fake that I have a Superpower. Looks like they brought in a Nidoqueen. Oh, and a shiny Nidoqueen at that. That's great. Oh, they just barely, KO before we get to that Body Slam, which is fine. And yeah, winning switch advantage was everything there because Hypno hardwalls the Nidoqueen while Machamp hardwalls the Alolan Raticate. It's game number 2. All right, let's see if we can make this work with another team. This is a variation on the same kind of strategy and style of my signature team. It just puts Pokemon in a different order. Lickitung takes the place of Snorlax. It serves a very similar function. It just has access to different moves. And it gets a little bulkier, I think, when it has XL Candy. Then Primeape takes the place of Snorlax. It's a little less bulky, but it has access to a wider set of moves. So we're going to go ahead and give this one a shot as well. Okay, we have Lickitung into Mew. This is actually a good lead this time because our fast move Lick is going to be doing super effective damage there, and my opponent brings in a Blastoise. I'm hoping we can make it to Power Whip. So we'll either get a shield or do pretty massive super effective damage here, and we do get the shield, which is great. I'm going to come in with Hypno. Because this is a Shadow Hypno, it is a little less bulky than its standard counterpart, so I'm going to go ahead and give up a shield here. I was expecting Hydro Cannon instead of Skull Bash, so we're going to go ahead and throw this Thunder Punch after over-farming just a little bit. We'll see if we get the second shield. We do not. They let it go, and I expect the Mew to come back. Nope. Instead, they bring in a Marowak, and a standard Marowak at that, which is interesting. We need to go for Shadow Ball here because obviously Thunder Punch will be resisted. This green shiny is really cool. I like this. Okay, so we are going to let the move through, let the Hypno go down. Just a Bone Club, not too bad. And now I'm going to go ahead and bring in the Primeape. My opponent swaps into their Mew, which is fine. I'm going to go ahead and swap into the Lickitung. And I suspect that they are building up to multiple moves, which makes me think they might have Wild Charge here. So I'm going to throw the Body Slam, get that shield, and we just need them to be more or less low enough that a neutral move like Ice Punch from Primeape could KO. One Wild Charge isn't going to do it. Their defense is down, so I can definitely KO with an Ice Punch from Primeape now, plus the counter damage. They decided to go for another Wild Charge, which actually just weakens them even more, and I did save a shield just in case we ran into trouble here, but I think everything should be fine. Ice Punch will be more than enough to KO this double debuffed Mew, and now we can just counter down against the Marowak. So 3 in a row, doing pretty well. Very happy with three W's there. We'll hop right into the next game. The strategy on this one is a little bit different. I have 2 Pokemon that are weak to fighters in the back, and then I have Nidoqueen up front. The idea here is to try and catch a Hypno with one of these 2 back Pokemon. So if the Pokemon in the lead is not a fighter, I'm going to immediately switch out to try and draw out the fighter for Nidoqueen. And Lickitung is my designated safe swap here. So we have Nidoqueen into Dugong, which is not a fighting type, so I'm actually going to go into the Alolan Raticate here because actually Lickitung has more play against the Dugong. But we can do okay here too, even though we're taking super effective damage. Alolan Raticate is very bulky, and Hyper Fang does quite a bit of neutral damage. Okay, so we chunked away a little bit. Now we can bring in the Nidoqueen, and we are going to be in a much better place against the Dugong. So I'm going to shield here because Wigglytuff does have access to Ice Beam, which would be super effective, but it takes a long time to get to Ice Beam. So I think I can fully farm down here. We're going to try. Okay, so that's pretty good. We'll see if they bring the Dugong back. Here comes the Dugong. Immediately going to go for this Poison Fang here. If I get the shield, that would be incredible. And we are already at enough energy to do an Earth Power. So Dugong is very bulky, but the fact that it is debuffed here, plus the fact that they gave up the shield was great. So they did a good job of catching this Poison Fang, but we still have our Lickitung in the back and a shield. So the Lickitung is a pretty serious counter to Hypno. The worst this Hypno could do would be to throw a Focus Blast, but very few Hypno actually run Focus Blast. Unfortunately, this Hypno has farmed up enough energy that it could hypothetically be a Focus Blast, so I have to respect it with the shield. Okay, yeah, there we go. Respect those big charge moves, y'all. Yeah, Focus Blast, that is intense. I suspect that they are going to try and debuff us here with Icy Wind, but it won't really matter because we're going to do super effective damage with this Power Whip anyway, and they are very low. So my opponent concedes the match. They were in a tough spot, so good game to my opponent. They did a great job. That is comforting to me in terms of team building because that lets me know that this team can actually operate in the way that I hoped it would. So I really like this setup with Nidoqueen plus the 2 counters to Psychic types in the back, especially because Hypno is so common. So this 5th team that I built is actually the kind of wild card team. This is the one that I'm messing around with. These are Pokemon that I don't normally use all that often. Sandslash is rated pretty high, but this is a classic Alolan Sandslash, not an Elite or a Community Day one. So we'll see what happens. All right, we've got Pidgeot, and this is into a Kanto Sandslash, and a Shadow one at that, so that's cool. Actually, Pidgeot can do pretty okay here. They have access to Night Slash, which will certainly start to add up after a while, but our fast move pressure is going to be pretty incredible here, I think. So we're just going to go ahead and let this next one through as well. They didn't get a boost or anything, so we can definitely survive. And we're just immediately going to go for this Feather Dance, either get a shield or debuff their attack. Okay, so we did debuff them, and we were able to farm down, which is great. And my opponent has an Electrode, which is very bad because it does neutral to A-Slash and super effective to Golduck. So that means we have to come in with A-Slash here, and we have to use both of our shields. Okay, and they have a fighter, so of course that's what Golduck is for. I think they've stored up 2 Cross Chops, so this is looking pretty bad. Oh no, they have Dynamic Punch, wow. Okay, so I'm going to go straight for Bubble Beam because we really need to debuff that attack. And best case scenario is we farm down with a move, but that might be a lot to ask for. I would just let the Machamp farm me down, except for the fact that I do not want A-Slash to have to tank a move, but I think they're probably going to KO here, yeah. So this Dynamic Punch will do it. Unfortunately, that takes out the Alolan Sandslash. So kind of a disappointing end to the set, but again, that was my most experimental team there. Overall, I think the other teams are pretty solid. Like I said, Nidoqueen and Beedrill are supposed to be very highly rated on the safe swap and on the closer positions. The signature team that I use every season for Kanto Cup is the Shadow Hypno plus Snorlax plus Payback Machamp. We've got a variation on that with Lickitung, Primeape, and Hypno. And then we have the sort of Hypno trap there with Nidoqueen, Raticate, and Lickitung. So I hope you've enjoyed watching my first set for the Kanto Cup this season. Maybe these teams would be helpful for you if you are playing in the Kanto Cup as well. If you come up with teams that you really like and that you might want to see me run here on the channel, I'd be happy to try out some teams for y'all, and I will bring more content to you soon. I'll talk to you next time, trainers.